Manchester City are currently the best team in the world. They won the Champions League last year and won a famous treble, and Pep Guardiola has changed tactics in football for the better for many years to come. And his philosophy of bringing in young players and developing them has been brilliant for many years. Players like Phil Foden, Rico Lewis and Cole Palmer have improved so much under his tenure. But with club legend Kevin De Bruyne getting no younger, Manchester City need a long-term replacement for the attacking midfielder, and they look like they've found one in their academy, that being Norway Bobb. Bobb grew up in Norway, Oslo, but had to grow up playing football in a different way, as it would snow from October to March in Norway, so he would struggle to play out on the field, so have to play a lot of futsal at a young age. Bobb was very talented and played for Lyn in Norway from a youth academy perspective, and at just the age of 10 years old he was linked to Portuguese club Porto after performing well in a youth tournament. And because of how young he was, Bobb's mother got reached out by the Portuguese side to try and convince the young footballer to sign with them, even going as far as to pay for them to visit the club in Porto. With Bobb and his mother seeing this as a very good opportunity, they actually wanted to move to Portugal even though he was just 11 years old at the time, and eventually signed documentations in November 2015 of the same year for Bobb to be enrolled in the Portugal's Federal Football Association. However, this documentation got rejected by FIFA in January 2016, and Bobb and his mother remained in Porto trying to still get a job in the football world in Portugal, and they attempted to sign with lower league club Escola de Futebol Herman Goncalves. However, FIFA were not convinced that Bobb's mother had moved to Portugal on her own violation to pursue an acting career, nor that Escola de Futebol Herman Goncalves were independent from Porto and refused to give Bobb any international certificate. This was a massive case in the eyes of Norwegian football and Portuguese football, and actually got sent to the Court of Arbitrary of Sport, which are the people that deal with all the main cases in sport when people can't come into a decision. However, when it went to the court, they decided to side with FIFA, and Bobb was told to return to Norway, where he had to go and sign for fellow Oslo-based club Valegra, now being at the age of 15. Now, this wasted quite a lot of time for professional football being played by Bobb at a young age. He didn't actually play in any youth academy at this point for a year and a half in key part of his teenage years, but he was still such a good player and kept himself fit and kept himself playing, so it was okay in the end, and he still got a good academy in Oslo. And he continued at this club for a few more years after this, and in 2019 he played for Norwegian's under-16 team, where he got noticed by some scouts at Manchester City. At the time, Bobb played very well in very many positions. He could play in attacking midfield, he could play in centre midfield, and he could play on both flanks, so he seemed a good versatility option at such a young age. So Manchester City picked him up on a youth academy contract in July 2019, and the just English newspaper The Guardian named him the best young talent at Manchester City in his age group, so there's a lot of expectations on this man to go really far. However, he actually had a relatively slow start to life in Manchester City and struggled to play quite a lot for the Manchester City under-18s and under-19s team, only notching up 13 games for the under-19s team. But Manchester City stuck by him, and finally in 2020 and 2021 he cemented his place in Manchester City's under-23 side, where they get to play professional clubs and they get to play proper opponents. And he actually notched up a number of assists in his first full season and showed great creative awareness and brilliant on the ball play. This led Man City to reward his fine form in the reserve side with an appearance in January 2022 on the bench against Swindon Town in the FA Cup. He did not feature, but this was a brilliant chance and a brilliant experience for the guy to train with real professionals. With this brilliant recognition of him getting into the bench of a Manchester City elite side, this gave a lot of credit in Norway to the player, and he actually got called up to the Norway under-21s despite only being 19 at the time still, so he could still play for the under-19s. This gave Oscar a lot of confidence going into the future, and in last season, the 2022-2023 season, he was absolutely phenomenal, being Manchester City's best young player. In 25 Premier League 2 games, he got 6 goals and 16 assists, and even played really well in the UEFA Youth League, while also getting an assist in the EFL Trophy. Overall, he played over 3,000 minutes for the youth side and featured in a number of positions, being on both flanks, centre midfield, attacking midfield, and also as a false 9, but his majority played in an attacking midfield role. He had standout performances against Manchester United's under-21, scoring a brace, and also Arsenal's under-21s in a 6-0 win, also scoring a brace in centre forward. This led to most of his coaches describing him as Manchester City's best technical player in the academy, and that he's very gifted midfielder, that he was brilliant with the ball, running with it, and also producing brilliant passes and being so aware of where he is. This was of course going to capture the attention of Pep Guardiola again, who already knew him from when he picked him up a year and a half ago for the bench against Swindon. And the expectation at the age of 20 was that he was going to be in this Manchester City first team this season, with a lot of hype going around the player after a phenomenal under-23 season last year. And that exactly has happened. On the 2nd of September, just a few weeks weeks ago, Bobb was given his first Premier League debut against Fulham, even though he came on in the 88th minute and only played a couple of minutes. And despite only playing a couple of minutes against Fulham, he was actually involved in the 5th goal. He was a part of the build-up and looked really good in it, with Erling Haaland getting his hat-trick, obviously a fellow countryman of Bobb. This allowed people to see who he was from outside Manchester City, and he ended up giving a big name, especially for his name being Oscar Bobb, a very catchy and quite a cool name. This impressive cameo allowed him to play in the West Ham game on the 16th of September, coming on for a couple of minutes, and he actually played 8 minutes against Real Star Belgrade in the Champions League, making his Champions League debut for the club. With just a small little cameos but brilliant performances in there, it really, Manchester City fans wanted to see him, and they got to see their man play against Newcastle away in a tough game in the EFL Cup. He played all 90 minutes in this game. He plays an attacking midfield role, his role that he prefers the most, and he was brilliant running with the ball. His technical ability is there for everyone to see. He was very good in midfield, and he was very good at keeping with the ball. Everyone was full of praise for the young man. Mikael Richards even said his close control, weight of pass, everything about his game, he was buzzing, and it was a joy to watch him play. Despite Man City struggling on the night, playing a bit of a weaker side, Bobb was definitely a shining light going forward, and there's surely going to be more and more chances for this guy to play, because Man City do love playing and giving opportunities to players that deserve it. Only time will tell to see how far Bobb goes, even if it is with Man City or another team. He's still yet to have a senior cap for Norway as well, but surely will come. But Norway are in a bit of a golden generation right now, so he might have to wait a little bit for that. But he's a very exciting player, and he is definitely one of the future players for Manchester City going forward. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and watch my other content. Thank you.